All right, that was a great presentation. Again, today on the Launchpad stage, thank you guys for joining us. We've really seen a snapshot of various industries from the entrepreneurial perspective. This next conversation is really interesting. It's one that's near and dear to my heart. And it's really looking into digital equity and how we define equity. A lot of times equity, as it relates to access, is tied to your zip code. And so I want to invite to the stage Max and Abdul to join me here. And we're going to dive into the concept of equity through the lens of access to tools. You know, there's a quote that the future of work is a race between education and technology. And we're going to dive into that a little bit with our panelists. So why don't we start off, Max, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Max Ringelheim here. Been living in Miami, Florida the last 3.5 years. Been a passionate tech entrepreneur for the last dozen years, and very simply do a lot of work in the education technology space involving electric vehicles and online robotics and AI for students and schools. And really, really happy to be here talking about all the impactful work we're doing in the Miami community.
Thank you, Max. Abdul, please.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Abdul. I am originally from Ghana, but I'm currently studying at Dartmouth College, and I'm a sophomore. And I'm excited to share a little bit about what I've been doing with Enlight, which is my startup.
Excellent. So, Abdul, I'm going to stay with you on this side. So, Enlight, as I mentioned, equity and access a lot of times is tied to your zip code, where you are geographically. Right before COVID, Miami EdTech, we were in the process of doing an EdTech exchange visit with EdTech entrepreneurs in South Africa. And unfortunately, this was part of the Mandela Fellowship. We were super excited to go. And we created a whole game plan to kind of like put the lens on EdTech and what does it mean when you have these two regions. We didn't get to go, still on our roadmap. We didn't get to go then. But tell us, Abdul, tell us about the innovation you've created and how it's addressing the digital divide.
Absolutely. So at Enlight, we are building sustainable access to quality and relevant educational resources for those individuals and communities who live in areas without internet access. And our approach is in twofold. One is the creation of a remote Wi-Fi network that is wide enough to cover an entire school community or even an entire village. And two is a local cloud of interactive learning materials. And when we combine those two, we have our technology, which we call the Book of Everything, which is able to broadcast a network within a region, for instance, an entire village, and allow any individual within that region to conveniently connect to the network and gain instant access to terabytes of learning materials without any need for internet. And our goal is to ensure that any student anywhere has access to the learning materials they need to achieve their full potentials.
So this is phenomenal. So it's the Book of Everything, companies Enlight, and you're basically fractionalizing through the wide area network access to learning content. And so tell us a little bit about what that brings to the regions where you hope it'll impact.
Absolutely. I think I'll speak about it in a broader sense because our initial focus is in Africa. And currently in Africa, over 90% of students, kids of school-going age, do not have access to the internet. And that is a much bigger problem for the entire global economy, and not just Africa, because it is projected that by 2050, Africa will have the largest workforce in the world. Essentially, 1 in every 4 people within the global workforce will be African. And those same individuals that are going to be within this workforce are the same kids today who do not have access to the learning materials they need to be able to achieve their full potentials or even gain quality education. So unless we address this issue of quality education, we risk a future workforce where we will have people that are underskilled, uneducated, and that is an absolute disaster for the entire global economy.
Thank you for sharing the statistics. I did not know that. And as I mentioned, the future of work is this race between education and technology, but the playing field is not level, and both of you are contributing to leveling the playing field. Just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in order to reach the top individual ideation, you need to have access. So Max, tell us a little bit about your work and how you're providing access.
Yeah, totally. So on the access and equitability front, it's really near and dear to my heart. Basically, we give students all around the world, and in particular here in Miami, we've been able to give students access to learning how to build electric vehicles at a fraction of the cost that it might typically be to work on a car, right? Through my company Infento, we give these kits to schools. They're very cost efficient, and you can have groups of students, 8, 20, 30 students working simultaneously, building an actual life-size go-kart, mini motorcycle at a fraction of the cost. In the world of AI and robotics, a company of mine called Riders Robotics, we allow students to be able to learn these early fundamental AI skills, learning how to program robots, learning how to build robots and design robots all online. Typically, heavy-duty robotic systems you find in like university laboratories, right? And it's super, super expensive. Meanwhile, with Riders, you get to use just a computer, a Wi-Fi connection, and a browser, and you're able to compete in online robotics and coding competitions, which is phenomenal. And hopefully we'll be able to get some students in Africa here pretty soon getting a chance to participate as well.
So I remember, my formal pathway into education was a 5th grade teacher, and I saw equipment come into the classroom, sit on the shelves, untouched, because teachers weren't adequately prepared to use the equipment. And our students who are now our younger generation, who have access to an exposure unlike ever before to tools and devices and information, I would love to hear a little bit about how you've been able to engage the community to support, because we've seen it. Today we had 30 teachers we hosted, and there seems to be a divide between workforce, employer, and what's happening in the 4 walls of a school. How have you been able to really activate the community?
Yeah, great question. I mean, putting yourself out there, for one, and doing some awesome networking at events like this. Last year I was lucky enough to meet some people from Mayor Suarez's team, the Venture Miami team, who took a liking to the work that we were doing in the local school district with this Riders program. They saw the different types of AI skills that we were equipping these students with. They saw how you with Miami EdTech were training teachers how to be more proficient in computer science in the classroom. And they were like, hey, let's give you a grant to do more of this so that we can get hundreds of students the opportunity to learn Python, programming, building robots, and then the cherry on top, compete against other schools from around the world in these types of competitions. So that was just phenomenal. And, once you get, one domino to fall like that, others follow suit, like, people from Udonis Haslam's team, or people from, Williams Racing at F1, who just recently participated as a judge in our electric vehicle race car build-a-thon this past weekend at Maker Faire Miami. So it's just really important to put yourself out there and show off the magic of what you're doing. And when it creates smiles on, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds' faces, it's just kind of, it does the speaking for itself.
Yeah, and I appreciate your active membership and doing so. Abdul, tell us a little about, Enlight, your startup. You're also a college student, so you're balancing this passion that you have. How did you decide that you wanted to pursue this venture?
Absolutely. I think it's definitely a difficult spot to be in, trying to make sure that I excel in my academics and still work on this thing that I'm really passionate about. I think my drive for this enterprise is based on my own personal experience. So a little bit of a story. I was born in a very small village in Ghana, where access to quality education was only a distant dream. But I had an advantage because my dad was a teacher within that community. So one, he knew the value of education, and 2, he could access the current system that we were in to realize that if I had stayed in that community, then I'll probably not achieve my dreams, right? So he moved me far away from home, alienated from the love of my family and all of that. And that has literally changed everything for me. I have been able to make it to an Ivy League school today just because of that single decision that my dad made to move me to a place that had more resources. And I shared a lot of big dreams with my friends within that community. And today, most of them have dropped out of school because they didn't have the resources to advance to the next level, right? And thinking about that, I think it hurts me a lot because I used to think of some of those friends as being more brilliant than me, but they could not make it far. And I think it's just unfair. So this is my personal mission to ensure that people do not have to struggle like the way I did to achieve their dreams, or even like my friends let go of their dreams because they merely do not have access to the resources. So even though I am pursuing my own academic dreams, I'm also making sure that the opportunities that I have here, I can leverage them to ensure that I'm enabling other people to also achieve their dreams. And that's pretty much the same vision for most of the colleagues that I'm actually working with.
That's incredible. Thank you for that, because as you think about your future and look ahead, you're also taking the time to pave the road behind you. And if more people took opportunities to do so, obviously the world would be a better place. Max, as we close out, what are some thoughts? How are some ways that the community can get involved with what you're up to and what we're doing in Miami EdTech?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, the variety of different boards that I've been able to join since moving here 3.5 years ago, whether it's Miami EdTech and the board and some of the different meetings that we host that we invite the general public to. We have an incredible STEM board through the district that has, you know, well over 50 members, a combination of teachers, district admins, private business folks from the private sector, giving you guys an opportunity to come into those meetings. Please find me afterwards if you're interested in getting involved in some of these incredible programs that we're talking about here on stage. There's more than one way to get you involved, and would absolutely love to do so from our side.
Awesome. Let's hear it for our panelists today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you guys, Max and Abdul. Appreciate it.